Lady Gaga, hacking fame. The woman who revolutionized pop culture. How do you know Lady Gaga? From the infamous meat dress she wore at the Video Music Awards, from the hermaphrodite rumors about her, or from the answers she gave to those rumors, from her music videos that resemble nightmares you'd see in a restless sleep, from her red carpet entrance being carried inside an egg, or from her role in A Star Is Born. Okay, if none of those, it's definitely something. I don't know which point you caught Lady Gaga at, but it's impossible to summarize this woman who sat on the throne at her peak in the 2010s and determined the future of pop music with just a few concepts. If it were possible, her revolutionary relationship with fame and pop culture wouldn't be taught as a course in universities. Today we're embarking on a journey through the life of Lady Gaga, whose influence has reached Turkey's borders through Hande Yener's inspirations. Fasten your seatbelts. The climbs are steep, the peaks are high, and the curves are jarring. But don't worry, everything will be beautiful in the end. If your popcorn is ready, I'm starting. The Rise, Lady Gaga. Last month, Lady Gaga signed her 7th album to debut at #1 on the Billboard music charts, with her album Mayhem. She was one of the artists with the most album and single sales in the 2010s. She couldn't escape being compared to Katy Perry, who emerged around the same years, but she was like no one else. Every single one of her moves made you ask, what will she do next? And she always did more. She always set the bar herself, and she was the one who raised it. But like everyone, she got her share of the difficulties of being at the top. When her dreams turned into reality, of course nothing was all rosy. Lady Gaga entered our lives with Just Dance. It wasn't very easy for her to enter our lives. She had gone through very difficult and complicated paths. Knowing that it was very easy to be forgotten with just one hit song, she took advantage of every opportunity that came her way, rushed to every microphone extended to her, and worked day and night. Her intention was to engrave her name in minds. She didn't look down on any offer. She gave her 100% even on stages set up in parking lots. She cleverly used her low budget and made her own clothes. She wanted her glasses, bodysuit, and hood to become brands. And so they did. Radio stations that wouldn't play her music during her breakout period, citing reasons that it was too fast and too electronic, were now chasing after her. Lady Gaga had prepared a lot for this moment. She knew very well how society brings down women in the public eye, the destructive effect of fame. She was well versed in the lives of figures like Marilyn Monroe and Princess Diana. She had no intention of being the next famous woman to be brought down. Fame wouldn't control her. She would control fame. In a way, she would hack this system. It wasn't surprising that she took inspiration from Paris Hilton, another woman who hacked the system, albeit in a very different field. When she released the Fame Monster in 2009, the second version of the Fame that included new songs, authorities who had previously turned up their noses at her had no choice but to applaud the artistic revolution. She crowned the artistic perspective she hinted at in the Paparazzi video, where she talked about how society destroys famous women with bad romance. The video's story wasn't clear enough to be understood, but it was unique and strange enough that we couldn't take our eyes off it. Thanks to Bad Romance, Lady Gaga became the first artist to reach 1 billion views on YouTube. The video for Telephone, her duet with Beyoncé that followed, was like a complete short film. Lady Gaga hadn't just revolutionized pop culture and pop music, she had also changed the purpose of using a social platform, YouTube. YouTube, which until that day had been used to watch sketches and parody videos, was now being used to watch music videos. Of course, this success was also crowned at the MTV Video Music Awards. She didn't leave being the star of the night to chance either. With both her red dress that covered her entire face and her performance where she smeared fake blood flowing from her chest onto her face, she gave everyone an awards night that's still referenced today. There was someone else who wanted to be the star that night, but whatever. Gaga explained her bloody show later. It was also a reference to women whose lives were stolen along with fame. She was asking the same question she asked in the Paparazzi video. Are celebrities killing themselves, or are we killing them? Beyond the implicit meaning of this show, it had a very clever function. Lady Gaga's outfits were sometimes simple pop culture references, and sometimes performances referencing gender roles. As she herself said, she was art itself, breaking the mold. Gaga's nudity, which didn't fit the sexy female singer mold, and her makeup that rejected beauty norms confused people. Rumors emerged that she was a hermaphrodite, meaning intersex. She could have simply denied these rumors, but she didn't want to offend anyone listening to her, or make people who actually were intersex feel bad. Barbara Walters, the architect of Britney's famous crying interview, also got her share of Lady Gaga's courage. The media was trying to apply to Lady Gaga the recipe they applied to all other famous women, but they kept hitting a wall every time. Being part of not just the broken music industry but a culture, especially a subculture, was a rank that until that day only rock stars could reach. Pop stars were deemed worthy of Britney's fate. Icons like Cher and Madonna, who didn't bow to the fate deemed worthy of them, had opened the necessary space for a new icon to be born. That person was now Gaga. She herself had emerged from among an artist community that harbored 1,001 colors and orientations from New York's nightlife. She had no deference to either the media or producers. Her loyalty was to the LGBTQ+ community that embraced her. It was inevitable that she would receive the return of this loyalty in spades. Little monsters are born. Thus, little monsters were born. The way Gaga addressed her fans at a concert, and Lady Gaga became Mother Monster. Until that day, the custom of giving fans names wasn't very common in the American pop world. It was a custom the K-pop world was used to. The name Little Monsters, which gave fans a real sense of belonging and embodied the bond formed with the artist, revolutionized fan culture in America. Afterward, Beliebers, Directioners, Swifties, and the Kitty Cats followed in succession. But Lady Gaga's relationship with her fans was different from everyone else's. She didn't want to be idealized, she wanted to be accepted with everything she was, and she embraced her fans in all their colors. Gaga, whose very existence was political, didn't neglect to give political messages when she drew attention to herself. At the 2010 MTV Video Music Awards, she showed up in a dress made of raw meat that would be debated for years. There was one detail those who condemned Gaga's move missed. Gaga didn't enter the red carpet in this dress. She entered in an ordinary Alexander McQueen dress with 4 American soldiers by her side. These 4 soldiers were people who had been harmed by the American military's "don't ask, don't tell" rule regarding LGBTQ+ members. This rule prohibited non-heterosexual soldiers from revealing their identities and also banned the military from discussing the subject. Thanks to the reaction of many people, this rule was lifted 1 year after Gaga wore the meat dress, through a law signed by Obama. Gaga was determined to thank her fans who made her experience feelings of acceptance and approval for the first time in her life through activism. The Madonna comparison. She and Katy Perry, with whom they debuted around the same time and couldn't escape being compared because they both reached the top, had long since gone separate ways. While Katy was accused of queerbaiting because of "I Kissed a Girl," Gaga was being embraced by queers. Gaga, who tried not to speak negatively about anyone, had one of her rare reactions on this subject. The duo's first face-to-face meeting in Paris in 2008 happened to be recorded. Katy said here about Gaga that she was that Madonna but better, unaware that this subject would be a burden to Gaga throughout her career. From the beginning of her career, Lady Gaga wasn't bothered by being compared to Madonna, the pop queen of her time. She constantly referenced her both in her songs and in interviews. But Madonna broke this unwritten agreement between them in 2012. In 2013, famous radio host Howard Stern's comment on this subject was that Madonna was jealous of Gaga. Gaga said this, referring to the situation. Gaga was now the pop queen. She was at the top. What she should be doing now was maintaining her position at the top in the competitive pop market. This was much harder than climbing to the top. The fall. In February 2013, Gaga had to undergo surgery due to an infection in her hip joints. Her body and mind seemed to want her to slow down. It was also significant that she had to stop just when she reached her goals while running without stopping, focused on her targets. When she disconnected from the Hollywood circus, she saw how lonely the top was. It was a fact that she challenged fame itself by saying, "I am fame itself," and didn't accept the fate of women who lost their lives because of fame. But no matter how much she didn't want to accept it, the destructive effects of fame were undeniable. Trying to be understood for years and facing harsh criticism had exhausted her. The love of millions didn't make a person love themselves. Applause, which she wrote during her recovery process after hip surgery, and in which she said she lives for applause, became the first single of her new album. The misfortune of this song, where she claimed fame and her fans once more, was that it was released a few days after Katy Perry's Roar single. Thus began the war between eternal rivals Kitty Cats and Little Monsters. The fuse that ignited the Twitter fan group battles we're used to today was lit for the first time then. In the end, Roar, which appealed to a much wider audience, was #1 on the charts, while Applause was 4th. Gaga's next single was Do What You Want, but here was the problem. In this song where she said, "You can do what you want with my body," she had duetted with R. Kelly, who was on trial in 2002 for selling footage of abusing children under 18. R. Kelly's criminal file, which would be revealed in 2022 and dated back to the 90s and included human trafficking. He married 15-year-old Aliyah in 1994 when he was 27 by forging documents, would later be understood to be another version of Diddy. Still, Lady Gaga should have had dozens of reasons not to duet with R. Kelly in 2013. The Reckoning. Gaga had also entrusted the single's cover photo and video to Terry Richardson, who was exposed as an abuser by the models he photographed. Gaga and Kelly performed on SNL, and behind-the-scenes footage of the video started being shared by Terry Richardson. Reactions to Gaga were growing like an avalanche. Everything from the song's lyrics to the people she collaborated with was trampling all over the values Gaga had defended until that day. Someone unnamed spoke to Page 6 and described all this as like an assault commercial. Actually, as always, this song also had implicit meanings. In the song, Gaga was addressing those who criticized her, saying, "You can capture my heart and mind, but you can't silence my voice. Do what you want with my body." But this time, the superficiality of how the song was marketed backfired. To explain the implicit meaning, she tweeted one by one the unfair criticisms made about her until that day from her own account. But there could be no explanation for working with two abusers, of course. Although Gaga made the mistake of initially standing behind R. Kelly, she gave up releasing the video within a short time and parted ways with her manager. Gaga, who published a statement on the forum she opened for her fans, said the video was planned in a very short time and implied without naming names that she was a victim of her manager's greed. Gaga, who until that day had faced all kinds of criticism thanks to her fans and could therefore say she lives for applause, was now left alone with this big mistake and the wreckage it created. The satanic chicken drawing she made herself and shared on the forum also worried fans. Although loyal fans didn't abandon Gaga and Art2Pop entered the charts at number 1, it was clear Gaga was struggling with many things. While the dark clouds over Gaga continued, the performance she staged for the song Swine on the Art2Pop album became the target of critical arrows. Gaga's dancer put his hand down her throat and sprayed a green liquid resembling vomit onto Gaga. It was thought that Gaga was making fun of eating disorders. Even Demi Lovato condemned Gaga. The revelation, Gaga explained something she perhaps never planned to explain. 9 years after it happened. For this reason, at 19 years old she had been raped by a producer much older than her, and had avoided facing this reality for years. When she had to give up her fast and sleepless life due to hip surgery, she came face to face with what she was running from, and confronted her trauma. The song Swine was about this. Thus began Gaga's healing process, which would leave her with a turbulent career in the second half of the 2010s. Stefani Joanne Angelina Germano. Stefani Joanne Angelina Germano hadn't inherited wealth but had become rich through her own efforts. She was born in 1986 to a family living on Manhattan's Upper East Side. In high school, she attended a Catholic girls' school with wealthy students and struggled with merciless bullying at school. Stefani, who had been playing piano since age 4, found herself in art after high school, first spending time at film school and then attending New York University's music school. When she dropped out of school to make pop music and achieve the fame she'd wanted since childhood, she made this deal with her father. Her father would provide Stefani with financial support for 1 year, but after that she would need to stand on her own 2 feet. Gaga's relationship with art through her body wasn't the kind her Catholic family would understand. Her relationship with her family deteriorated while she was deeply involved with New York's underground art scene and doing stage shows with Lady Starlight, to be repaired later. Stefani found her stage name while joking with those around her about Queen's song Radio Gaga, one of her inspirations. She was now telling people she met to save her in their contacts as Lady Gaga. Although she signed with Def Jam Records in 2006 thanks to the demo recording of Beautiful Dirty Rich, her dreams of breaking out fell through when the company terminated the deal 3 months later. The constant comments from producers that she was fat and ugly were also soul-crushing. In 2007, she met Vincent Herbert, whom she would later refer to as the man who discovered me. Vincent was the person who opened the doors of Interscope Records for her, because she was being confused with Amy Winehouse on the stages she performed on, and at the manager's request, she dyed her hair platinum blonde. This is how the Lady Gaga we know today was born. The healing journey. After the Art2Pop period, during the process when Gaga turned inward, worked less, and tried to heal, she turned to completely new areas for herself, jazz music and acting, which she had been trained in. In a 2015 interview with Billboard, she said she felt depressed and wanted to quit music. According to what she told, the year before, a psychiatrist had asked her if she really still wanted to be a pop star. Gaga had answered like this: "If I could stop this train right now, I would. Unfortunately, I can't, but I need to get off the train now, otherwise I'll die." During this bad period when she had to face the traumas she experienced in the past, even though everything seemed worse to Gaga than it was, the revolution she made in pop music couldn't be ignored. With her role in American Horror Story, this time she was expected to conquer the TV and film industry, and so she did. The cure for Gaga's music career and healing process was to return to her essence, introduce Stefani, and be more unfiltered. Until that day, she had always done more, and tried to work on her art layer by layer. Gaga, who thought she was never understood, made her most open, most makeup-free album in 2016. Joanne was both her own middle name and the name of her father's sister who died of lupus disease at age 19. The event that tore a piece from Gaga's being also happened when she was 19. The comeback. Gaga signed one of the most watched Super Bowl shows of all time to promote her album and went on tour. But due to intense pain, she had to cancel the last 10 concerts of the tour. On the path she set out on by challenging fame, she no longer hesitated to say that fame was consuming her. Although she often had to say she was grateful for what she had because she didn't want to receive backlash, she didn't deprive her listeners of her intellectual perspective on fame. Fame was a result of the need for approval and being liked that she couldn't get in her childhood. And once obtained, there was no turning back. As she had said before, she didn't want to become part of the system and lose herself. She wanted to be part of a culture. She also spoke courageously during this period about the Madonna feud that had been going on for years. She had no deference left to anyone. Despite all the support from fans, even fake accounts they created disguised as American housewives to get songs played on the radio, Joanne became an album that fell below Lady Gaga's own bar. Gaga's loss of passion for her art had a huge effect on this. That's why she continued doing what excited her, acting. In A Star Is Born, she was both the lead actress and producer and writer of most songs on the film's soundtrack album. Thanks to her song Shallow, which reached millions, she became the first woman to win an Oscar, Golden Globe, BAFTA, and Grammy in the same year. After a long break, in 2020 came the very electronic album Chromatica and the hit single Rain on Me, performed with Ariana Grande. Fans worked heart and soul for this album so Gaga wouldn't take another break from music. Preparing fake campaign visuals to increase album sales was also part of this work. These fake visuals spread so much that Starbucks had to make a statement that they didn't have a campaign like the one in the visual, the return to form. In the following years, Gaga continued making jazz music, acting, and activism. In 2021, she was a guest on Oprah and the Prince's mental health program, and told many things she hadn't told until that day. Everyone was just learning about the psychosis she entered in 2018 as a result of her traumas being triggered, and that it had lasted 2.5 years. In 2023, when Keisha filed a lawsuit against abusive producer Dr. Luke, Lady Gaga also sat in the witness stand. Although Keisha's lawyer revealed that the person who abused Gaga at 19 was Dr. Luke, it was definitely not her place to reveal this. Gaga's lawyers said this information was incorrect, and this statement was disrespectful. Gaga put an end to her years-long stagnant and internally turbulent period with the Mayhem album she released this year. She had stopped at the right station on her journey to find herself again. The journey she made to those years when she built herself with the Lady Gaga name, those New York years when she regained her passion for art, wasn't yet famous, and was in solidarity with other artists, became the key for her lovers to see the Lady Gaga they missed. She signed hits big enough to surpass even the Born This Way period. In this album too, Gaga didn't neglect to criticize the position she was squeezed into with the song Perfect Celebrity. The essence of this song, where she describes Hollywood as a ghost town and says, "Sit in the front row and watch the princess die," referencing Princess Diana who lost her life because of paparazzi, is this: hating celebrities is also part of the fun. The legacy Lady Gaga, with the art she wove layer by layer, with her intellectual perspective on the world and her own life, with her mastery of every stage of her works, with the right she granted herself to do what her heart desired, with her refusal to be squeezed into femininity roles, is a living legend who broke the definition of pop star as we knew it, and opened a more merciful path for a new generation of female pop stars. I'll be sitting in the front row to watch what she does for the rest of her life. That's all from me for today. We may seem to be talking about celebrities on this channel, but you know very well that we're actually talking about fame itself. Women's struggle to exist in all areas of life, and ruthless industries. When I decided to make a Lady Gaga video, I guessed a lot would come out of it, but I didn't know I would identify so much with the awareness this powerful woman who decided to hack the system experienced over the years, that I would hear my thoughts about fame word for word from her mouth. I'll be here again to continue talking about those who try to use their power in the best way, those who don't fall with their mistakes, and those who are voices for the oppressed. See you in the next video. Stay with love, hope, and resilience.